Hi everyone, Danielle here. I'm doing a rules overview of Solar Sentinels, well 20 strong Solar Sentinels by Chip Theory Games. I have all the components laid out here. If you didn't see my unboxing, that's okay. I'll kind of just show everything that's in this box basically. So everything came in this box and the cards came in this deck box. I guess I'll show you what this is. So this is a tracker that will be used in some of the aspects of the game related to missions, which I'll show you in a bit. But this is a magnetic type of chip, and it will be used differently depending on the deck that you're using to play 20 strong. I only have Solar Sentinels, so that's what I'll be highlighting in this video. But I like that this is magnetic and you can spin it around, and there's this little arrow that will tell you kind of what your what number you are on the track. So that's pretty neat. I know personally I do prefer to use a dice or some sort of life tracker, but I think this is just fine. I do worry I might knock into it and make it, inaccurate very easily. It does spin very easily, but as long as you keep it in a place that does not get easily, tapped or whatever, you should be fine. Next, you have the general rules of play. This is version 1.0. This gives you an overview of how to play 20 strong. And then there's the rules of play specific to Solar Sentinel. So this is not really a book, but it's like a page that opens out like this. And this tells you how to play. And I'll be going over basically all the details that's in this rules of play in this video. Next, we have this row of dice. There are basically 5 different colored dice that comes with this game, and a total of 20 dice. So there are 17 of these dice and then 3 stat dice. So specifically, do want to say that the dice are referred to as unit dice. And so this is a quick overview of what those dice are and what the sides look like. So we have the miss, the basic hit, and the crit. And the basic hit does 1 damage, the crit does 2 damage. So as you can see, this is already placed from weakest to strongest. So weakest meaning the least amount of hit sides, and then the strongest meaning the most amount of hit sides. Keep in mind there's only 1 of these red dice and every side has a hit. So that's something that you would definitely need to strategize around when you're determining which dice to use in your game. So yeah, this is pretty neat. It's very much a dice management game, almost push your luck, I guess, too, because as you use your dice in this game, you lose access to using it in a future turn. I want to talk about these 3 dice here. So we have a health die, which is this one, and then we have a strategy die, and then we have a recover die. So with these dice, just like to point out some of the pages here of the rule book in case you want to follow along. The health tracks how much damage you take before you lose the game. And the strategy dice, they actually show a value for 2 things. So if you had it on the 4, that means you can roll your dice up to 4 times in a turn. Otherwise, you would just be limited to whatever number you see here on your dice. The other way you use this die is to determine how many inventories you can have in your inventory row. So you can hold items, and I do want to point out that page here. So it's part of the rewards. So this is page 18. Feel free to pause, but you gain item rewards if you're able to defeat the enemy that you're facing in this game. So that's what the strategy die will tell you. It'll give you your limit as to how many items you can carry. And then lastly, we have this recover die. And this tells you how many dice you can recover at the end of the engagement with the enemy. So throughout your engagement with the enemy in this game, you'll be using dice to hopefully get enough hits and damage to defeat the enemy. And those dice that you use become discarded, but you get to recover them at the end using your recovery die limit. So if it says 3, you get to recover 3 of them, and you get to pick whichever one. You'd always want to bring this back, by the way, this red one. You don't want to leave that in the discard if you can help it. Next, we'll talk about the conflict cards. So there's going to be 45 of these cards, and they are very good quality. I think they're PVC material, so you don't really need to sleeve them if you don't want to. But I probably would if I knew it would fit back in the deck box. I just prefer shuffling sleeved cards versus doing this. It doesn't really shuffle cards too well. So, but yeah, these are the conflict cards, and these will be the enemies that you will try to defeat in your game. I'll go into more detail in a bit about that. These are your 3 hero cards. They are double-sided, so you get to choose from a total of 6 different heroes when you play this game. They all have different stats and unique abilities on it, so you'll want to make sure you have time to read through each of these abilities and choose the one that you want to try out. And it might be nice to even just create a little campaign for yourself. And these are the scary boss cards. So you have 4 bosses that you get to attempt to defeat, and they all have different abilities, different health points, so definitely add some variety to the game. It would have been nice if they gave a little bit more, but I'm guessing there could be future expansions with more bosses. And here we have the mission cards. So these mission cards give you, well, they're optional to play with, first of all. But they give you some cool ways to make your game a little bit tighter, I guess. So it just gives you some more things to think about. So it's like, it just introduces like something like this: activate 3 or more enemies in a single activation, and then you've completed this mission. I have yet to play with the missions myself, but I do like that it can help change up the game or make it more challenging. They don't recommend it for your first game, so something to note about that. Okay, so now I want to show you how to set up a solo game of 20 Strong Solar Sentinels. So you have your three little piles of different cards. You choose one of the heroes. For this example, I will choose Galahad the Lancer. So I want to make note of the ability. So this says Auto Javelin. Before each exhaust dice step, you may return up to 2 committed oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Those are the critical hits. There we go. It has 1 health, 3 strategy, 2 recover. So I'll choose this as my main hero. I'll put that right here. And then these boss cards, we just shuffle into a face down pile. So we'll give that a little shuffle. Difficult to really shuffle 4 cards, but do your best. And I like to just put it just kind of out of reach here because they're not actually active right now. They will be called upon at some point in the game. And then we have the conflict cards. And again, there are 45 of them. You'll go ahead and shuffle. And then you're going to count them out into piles of 15 cards, which means you'll have 3 piles. So let's do that. Okay. Put that here. All right. So we got a good mix here. And then you're going to want to grab your stat dice and just put it to the value stated on your hero card. So that's 1 health, 3 strategy, and 2 recovery. So that's what we'll do right here. And that is the setup. All right, so we have a round to talk about. So I'll go over what happens in 1 round of 20 Strong. And to start off with, you have activation. Looking at your 3 piles of conflict cards, you have to activate 1 enemy. But something to keep in mind, you'll notice the treatment around these two cards are different. These two are the same, but this one is different. So the ones with these like lines, the orange lines, they're considered mandatory. So when that happens, when you activate one of the enemies, you have to choose one that's mandatory. If none of them had this specific card treatment, you could choose any of the 3 piles. But in this case, I have to choose between one of these. So, for example, I'll go ahead and choose, doesn't really matter at this point, but I'll choose Parablight. So to tell you more about this card, this number 1 at the top is the level of the enemy. So this is a level 1 enemy. This icon means we have to add another enemy from one of the 3 conflict decks when this comes out. So when I activate this, this activates another enemy. Then I have to make note of this ability. It says each enemy can have only 1 die color applied to them. So that means that during this encounter, basically, that I have to make sure I don't have multiple different colored dice applied to the enemy. And that'll make more sense in a little bit. After I defeat this enemy, there will be an item that I can gain, and it will be called Stun Gun. And it will have a one-time use ability, discard 1 level 2 enemy from this engagement and gain no reward. Because typically when you defeat an enemy, you gain a reward, but when you're discarding one, you don't get one. Then we have this number on the right. The 3 is how much damage it would take to defeat this enemy. And then the 1 is the damage we would take if we don't defeat this enemy by the end of the round. So we'll put this active here, and then we're forced to pick another enemy to activate because of this icon. So again, as a reminder, because this is a mandatory enemy, I have to choose this. So although I may have wanted to choose this one, looks a little less scary, I have to choose this Beseeker. So this is a level 1 enemy. It's called Beseeker, and it has a ability that happens after the engagement, and it says count the total number of applied dice. Discard that many cards from the tops of any stacks, 1 at a time. That's pretty cool. So we'd want to maximize the amount of dice that we have applied to this enemy, so that we could discard as many cards from the tops of the stacks that we can, I guess. I think that would be the right strategy, but you have to decide for that yourself. And then if we were to defeat this, we would gain it as a reward, and this reward is instant. We'll be able to increase our health stat. So at this point, we have our active area that has 2 level 1 enemies. Pretty scary for a first turn. Okay, so now we go into engagement. So engagement is split into 2 phases. The first one is strategy phase, and the strategy phase is repeated up to as many times that is stated on your strategy die. So I can repeat the engagement strategy phase up to 3 times if needed. So I'll just want to make sure that if I don't defeat an enemy by then, unfortunately I've lost my chance to do so. Unless there's an ability that would trump that. So in the strategy phase, you're going to commit dice. This is your dice pool on the left here, and you'll be able to commit any dice you'd like, although keeping in mind some of the card text on the enemies and also maybe even on your own card. So you'll choose any amount of dice, but you would want to choose carefully because, again, you don't really get to recover all those dice at the end of the round. This recover die only allows you to recover 2 of the dice that you commit and apply in this round. So I'll go ahead as an example, just commit 1, 2, 3 dice. So that is the commit step. Now we go to the roll dice step. I'll go ahead and roll. And this was a pretty good roll. We get to apply the dice as we would like, and being that this is my first strategy phase, I think this is not bad. So I'll be able to apply 2 damage. There's a critical hit, 3, and 4. So I could apply all of these to this one. This is the best case scenario for Beast Seeker if I wanted to discard as many cards as I can, because I'm applying 3 dice, which means I could discard that many cards from the top of any stacks one at a time. So I have 2 more strategy phases. I've used up 1. I have a max of 3. So I can choose to add more dice because I still want to defeat this enemy. So I'm going to choose a purple, a green, and a yellow. And hopefully I get 3 damage from these dice. I'll go ahead and commit these, and I'll roll it. And pretty good. I have 1, 2, 3 hits. So now I get to apply it. So I'll get to, oh my gosh. So this is something that you have to keep in mind, is this. Each enemy can have only 1 die color applied to them. So that means I can't actually apply these because they have to be the same color. So that is, unfortunately, an example of why you need to keep in mind all of these different ability texts while you choose the dice you commit and roll. So if I were to back that up, I would need to make sure that I only apply 1 here and possibly 1 here. And then if I were to have this left over, it would be pretty useless because I can't use them on either of these. So unfortunately that's lost. But the smart thing to do actually would be to use the purple and the blue, and the red can't be used. And then I'll choose 2 blues and 2 purples, I think, for my second engagement. So I'll do that. My second strategy phase, I'll roll, and then we have some really good hits. So we have these, and we have these. And I managed to defeat both of them. Hopefully you're able to follow that. We have a total of 3 strategy phases. We only needed 2. Okay. So in this case, we're able to just turn both of these sideways like this, just to note that we did defeat both of them. And just to count these out, this is 2, 4, 5 damage. This is 2, 4, 5 damage. So these were really lucky rolls. When I played this game, my rolls were nothing like this. Now that the strategy phase is over, I get to resolve everything. So there's a resolve phase. I get to suffer damage if I didn't defeat any enemies. There are no undefeated enemies, so I don't have to take any damage. So now we do the after effects. And that includes the one that I read off for Beast Seeker. So I get to count the dice, 1, 2, 3, and I get to discard off the top of any of these one at a time. So I'll discard this one. That's 1, 2, and 3. So I've done all of that, and then I get to exhaust the dice. So I get to exhaust all the dice that I just applied. I get to recover dice. I look at the number on my recover die, and it's 2. I will always want to bring back my 1 red die, because again, I only have 1, and then look at which ones are the strongest of the dice, and I'll choose the purple, because it's stronger than the blue. So those are the 2 dice I recover, put it back into my pool of dice. After that, I gain item rewards. So this one allows me to gain up to gain 2 health. I cannot surpass 6. Not that that's an issue for me, but something to note, you can't go past 6. And so now I have 3 health. And this gets discarded. This one is a little bit different. This has an item on it. So I gained this item into my inventory, and I could use it on a future turn. I could even use it right now if I wanted to. But this says discard 1 level 2 enemy from this engagement, no reward. That doesn't really fit right now. I don't have any to discard, so I'll save this for later. And this is a one-time use. After I use it, I discard the card. So now, during the cleanup, I discard all active cards, and I've done that. Basically, they were discarded or put into my inventory, and it says discard 1 non-mandatory from stacks. So I have the option to discard one of these. And I think I'll discard this one because I don't like ones that make me have another enemy when I activate one. So I'll discard that. Something to note is that you have to discard one that doesn't have this treatment on it, the mandatory treatment. So I did mention that just before, but want to just emphasize that. You cannot discard a card with this treatment on it during the cleanup phase. And that was one full round of 20 strong Solar Sentinels. I hope this was a clear enough playthrough for you. For now, I do plan on doing a fuller playthrough, but I think this really tells you kind of the flow of the game, what the components are, and I did not play with the missions, but if you were to play with the missions, you would use these purple cards, and to set it up, you would just follow the instructions on this paper. And it says missions right here. So essentially you'll shuffle the mission cards, deal 4 of them out, and you'll put at the top of your play area. And then you have to choose one to discard, and the other 3 are the ones that are in play. And then you'll place the chip in the chip holder with its counter side face up near the missions. So that's where this comes into play. You'll be using this with your missions. Okay, so I'm going to end my video here. If you found this helpful, you found this style helpful instead of a full playthrough, let me know. I could definitely do more like this. But yeah, I really wanted to give an overview of what this game is. So far, I really enjoy it. I've yet to add missions into my plays, but eventually I think I will. Alright, well, if you haven't already subscribed, feel free to subscribe to my channel. You'll see more videos like this, unboxings, playthroughs, tutorials. Feel free to leave a comment on what you think about this game, or, you know, just in general, what you're playing these days. Alright, well, as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next time.